Good day to you, Gary Buffini from Arc Leadership Dynamics here. Welcome to week number 6 of our leadership series. And thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. At this stage, you should have had a meeting with your team of direct reports to announce to them your intention to drive towards excellence in terms of how work gets done. And now comes what I believe is the single most important meeting that you will have in any calendar year. And I strongly suggest that if you want a culture in which your team of direct reports are going to take ownership of and be totally committed to this drive towards excellence and managing that and managing the growth, then this meeting that you're about to have becomes the single biggest and most important meeting that you'll have in any calendar year. Now, this particular meeting, we're going to get feedback from them in terms of how work gets done. We're going to ask them, first and foremost, what are the things that are working well? Because we want a culture where people remember there are things that are working well. And by the way, if there are things working well, then it's an opportunity for you to congratulate them because they're doing things that are working well. We're going to get to the meat of it by asking where the biggest challenges are. This is where you're going to get the guts of the issues that need to be addressed. And then also we're going to ask them, if you were in my position, what are the solutions that you would put in place? Because we want a culture that is primarily solution-oriented, okay? However, I understand for a number of people, when you get feedback, it creates problems, such as somebody gives you feedback that is uninformed. Somebody gives you feedback that is, stupid. Somebody gives you feedback that's provocative. And you have to follow up with each one of those individuals and have a difficult conversation. With the way we do feedback, you don't have to follow up with any one individual on anything that they said, okay? And so here's the way that we do this. First and foremost, we come to the place where we recognize that you giving them feedback has almost no risk attached to it. Them giving you meaningful feedback could mean that they could take a giant leap towards losing their job and not being able to pay their mortgage or their rent, okay? So never underestimate that. It's a big deal. If they're going to give you feedback, let's say, for example, the great idea that you had last year that you acted on, that you still think is a fantastic idea, and your entire team knows that it was a dumbass idea. Who's going to tell you whether that is a dumbass idea or not, right? And what are the consequences of telling you that? That at its core is what we're dealing with here when we get feedback. So it's important that we set it up properly. Number one, you give them the 3 questions a week in advance. At a minimum, it allows for your quietest people to have cheat sheets when they show up for the meeting. Number 2, when you show up for the meeting, you show up with one focus in mind and one only, and that is to capture the information accurately. So I always like to write the information down and let them see what is written down. The only thing that you say in response to anybody who gives you feedback during the course of this meeting is, when you write it down, is you go back to that person and say, did I capture the point you were trying to make? Did I capture that accurately? Do not engage them in a conversation when they give you feedback and they say, well, I understand why you're saying that, but there's things you don't know. No, we don't care about your opinion at this meeting. Say nothing. Don't disagree with them. Let them know this is a safe place, and it also tells them you're dead serious about getting the feedback, okay? If, for example, somebody gives you feedback and you don't quite understand it, ask them a clarifying question so that you can understand it properly and make sure their point is represented well on the board where you're writing down all of the feedback that you get. This is absolutely crucial. Bearing in mind, the quality of feedback you're going to get depends on the quality of the relationship that you have with them. Even if it's great, you won't get all of their stuff. By the way, they know all the stuff. You don't. Some of them have been telling you that your dumbass idea that you put in place last year is a great idea because they're kissing up to you. It's not. But if you play this well and if you play it smart, then you will get that kind of information from them as long as they understand that the environment is safe. Remember, they're running through things: care, trust, and excellence. Do you actually demonstrate that you care about knowing what they think? This is a fantastic opportunity to do that. Can you be trusted to take this feedback and treat it seriously, even if it's the dumbest thing you ever heard in your life? And then with regards to excellence, are you totally committed to having them play a pivotal role in helping you and your team drive towards excellence? These are important things. So when I start a meeting, number one, I let them know their feedback is important. Number two, we're going to act on it. Number three, the feedback that they give us, they can say anything they like as long as one of two things: it is respectful, and number two, it is designed to help us get better. Those are the only two rules, okay? You're there to gather all the information. And what you do is as you gather the information, so when you start out with the positives, what's working well, if they give you 15 or 20 things that are working well, ask them, since everything looks the same on paper and you want to know the things that are working best, what are the top 3 things? Just so you know the things that are, in their opinion, are working the best. They'll want to vote on 4 or 5 or whatever. Just say top 3. And then what you do is you go through the board on every single piece of feedback that you have, and you find out how many people voted for each one of those. And what happens is you have a natural sorting and process that takes place, which is super important when they deal with the challenges. You repeat this process when you get the challenges. So in other words, you've written every piece of feedback on the board. You tell them, okay, I need a place to start, because nobody wants to know that their piece of feedback is going to be ignored. So you say, look, it all looks the same. I need to know where the biggest challenges are. I need to know the place to start. So tell me, write down, what are the top 3 pieces of feedback that are on this board? And then one by one, you point to each piece of feedback, get them to raise their hand if that's in their top 3, and record the number of votes according to each one. Your most provocative feedback, your dumbest feedback, all of those will be rejected by the team itself. You'll never have to address them at all. And what you'll get is feedback that the team says is the most important. This is crucial for the process that you are taking them through. You let them vote on the feedback that matters the most. And of course, the pieces of feedback that have the highest votes, those are the pieces that you're going to tell them, this is the place where we're going to start. A lot of these other pieces will be taken care of along the way, but I need to know from you guys where it is we're going to start. And then with the last one, you just repeat the same process again with regards to the solutions that they would put in place. Now, you would think that there will be a strong correlation between the solutions they'll put in place and the biggest challenges identified. That's not always the case. A lot of times it is, but don't necessarily assume that to be the case. By the way, when it comes to the feedback that matters the most, especially with regards to the challenges, let's say you get votes that are spread out all across the place. Well, what that's telling you is that you have nothing that is an absolutely glaring problem that has to be addressed immediately. And so what you want to do is you want to gather up the feedback. Let's say everything got 2 votes, or a lot of things got 2 votes, or 6 or 7 things got 2 votes. Then you want to ask them, pick the one area that you would start on first, because that's your sorting and qualifying process. Now, next week, I'm going to talk to you about the most important thing that you need to do once you have gathered this information, because your team needs to know what you're going to do with this. We're going to talk about that next week. By the way, if you know anybody who you think would enjoy this series, and with their permission, send us their contact information. We'll add them to the list so they can enjoy the benefits of this too. And then, of course, if you know anybody who you think would benefit from working with ARC, whether it is in the hiring of leaders, or somebody who needs to work on their individual growth as a leader, or whether it is the team dynamics that need work on, please feel free to reach out to Gary@arcld.com, and we'll be happy to take care of them. Until next week, I hope you have a fantastic week and good luck with this. Bye for now.